Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, September the 13th, 2021, and I want to read this article that I think this came out. This was on the 10th, so I think this was Friday. If you guys haven't heard, the Biden administration has mandated that vaccine testing. I'm just going to go ahead and read the title. It says Biden mandates vaccine or testing for 80 million private employees. Quote, this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Now, there's a lot that has happened over this weekend. I even talked about this last night in my live stream. So I do want to read this article, and this is from christianheadlines.com, and I will be leaving a link to this article in the description below, and you guys can read this article for yourself. Now, I haven't read this yet, but I do, and I said before I actually read it, I wanted to just read this live. But of course, you guys know me. I'm going to give my commentary, and I'm going to always add my 2 cents. So, and I just want to kind of forewarn you guys, I have not read this, so I don't know what this article is saying, but I do want to read it and try to see if we can decipher some facts in this. Christian Headlines has been pretty good to me so far when it comes to covering certain stories. So hopefully this is going to be about facts. This is not an opinion piece. So this is an article. We're just going to be dealing with what has actually happened so we can kind of understand what this mandate means, especially for us as Christians. Because this is going to affect not only just the United States, but it's going to affect us as well, especially those of us who have a conscience that is leading us to maybe not, or to be hesitant about taking the COVID-19 vaccine. So let's just go ahead and start reading this article. And it says, urging Americans to, quote, do the right thing. Right. Yeah, really. President Joe Biden on Thursday said his administration will require private businesses with 100 or more employees to require their workers to either to get vaccinated against or tested weekly for COVID-19. I mean, I believe that we're already going down a rabbit hole. I mean, he's just saying, work or get this vax. Well, get this vax and work, or don't get the vax and don't work. And, you guys know that a lot of us as Christians, some of us, we have our own businesses. Now, of course, those who own businesses, they might not be affected as much, but those who do own businesses may be affected by this, because maybe those who have businesses that we may work with who have 100 employees or more may not want to work with us because we may not be vaxxed, for those who are business owners, right? But, obviously those, like some of us who do work for companies that has 100 or more employees, this is going to greatly affect us. Now some decisions are going to be made to where, do I take the vaccine and work and go against my conscience, which the Bible tells me clearly not to do? Or do I not take the vaccine and risk losing everything? So that's why I wanted to read this article. All right. Let's continue. The new plan will also require federal workers to be vaccinated. More than 200 million Americans, including 75% of adults, have received at least one new dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I want to clear something up. Kind of want to retract. I want to say retract, but I'm going to clean up what I just said. This is not about getting the vaccine and working, or getting the or not getting the vaccine and not working. If you decide to opt out of the vaccine, you're going to have to get tested weekly, which is very uncomfortable. I talked about this last night on my live stream, and very uncomfortable. I had it done about 4 times. Trust me, I don't think it's something that you would want to do every week. But I just wanted to clear that up. So it's not you either get the vaccine and don't work, but you can also not take the vaccine, but you're going to have to be tested weekly. All right, quote, "This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated," Joe Biden said. "The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning the emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer." Now, that's actually inaccurate. There have been reports where these claims have been made, and there are people who've actually come out and said, no, that's actually not true. So it's not the quote-unquote unvaccinated people that are overrunning the emergency, the ICUs and the emergency rooms and all of that. That's not true. But I'm going to continue to read this because there's some things that I do want to say, and I don't want to keep stopping every paragraph so you guys can hear my babble. I want to get through this, and then I can go ahead and give you guys my commentary, which I know that you guys love so much. And we're just going to read through this, and I'm going to try to keep my babble down to a minimum. Okay, in Mississippi, 87% of COVID hospitalizations, 87% of COVID deaths in August were among the unvaccinated, according to the state's Department of Health. Arkansas had similar numbers, with 85% of active cases of COVID occurring in the unvaccinated state, data reports. Quote, "The Labor Department is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week," Biden said. Quote, "Some of the biggest companies are already requiring this. United Airlines, Disney, Tyson Food, and even Fox News." Wow. Mr. Conservative news station, Fox News, is requiring people to get the vaccine. And this is why I say, when people think that Fox, stations like Fox News is just, oh no, they're more right, conservative leaning. They're basically all the same. Okay, let's continue. But even some supporters of vaccines were questioning Biden's order. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey, a Republican, who this year blamed the unvaccinated for the continued pandemic, called the Biden plan, quote, outrageous and, quote, overreaching. I totally agree. Don't have time enough to get into that, but I just want to let you guys know I agree. Alabamians, quote, "Alabamians have stepped up by rolling up their sleeves to get the COVID-19 vaccine, increasing our doses administered significantly in recent weeks," Ivey said. "We have done so without mandates from Washington, D.C. or Montgomery. I have made it abundantly clear I support the science and encourage folks taking the vaccine. However, I am absolutely against a government mandate on the vaccine, which is why I signed the vaccine passport ban into law here in Alabama. This is not the role of the government." Totally agreed. Again, it shouldn't be up to the government to make you get a vaccine or not. It's not the government's job. We're supposed to be able to come to the government and say, hey, we want this. If that's what majority of Americans want. That's why we have a government structured the way that we do. So therefore, we wouldn't have tyranny or a tyrannical government that is going to tell us to do something that majority of us are not we're not comfortable with doing. We don't live in a communist nation. Communist nations do things like this. But we are a democratic republic. We, the people, are supposed to be the ones that are supposed to say, we want this, or no, we don't. And the government is supposed to do whatever we tell them to do as a collective, right? Legal experts are split on whether the plan will survive court challenges. I hope it doesn't, but the way things have been going in the United States, I don't hold my breath at all. Because where we are right now, 5-10 years ago, if you would have told me that right now we would be in the position that we're on now, I would have been like, I can't believe it. So therefore, if it does go to the court and it survives, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, Dorrit Rice, a University of California Hastings Law School professor, said that she believes the mandate may be struck down in lower courts but survive on appeal. Quote, this new vaccine policy affects areas wider than the workplace, but it could be said there is an increased risk at the workplace, Rice told Barron's. Quote, I think the Labor Department has a decent chance of surviving a challenge, end quote. Mark Barnes, who teaches health law at Yale Law School, believes that the Supreme Court may be skeptical about the mandate. Several conservative justices on the court, he told Barron's, are, quote, very hostile to the commerce power and extensive use of the interstate commerce power by the federal government, end quote. Biden's plan also required those who work in hospitals and other medical facilities to be vaccinated. All total, that's about 17 million healthcare workers, Biden said. Now, I've been hearing reports that nurses have been quitting over this mandate or this requirement. Now, let's think about this for a second. If nurses are quitting and there's a shortage of nurses, then why are you making a requirement for nurses to be vaccinated, knowing that this may lead to mass resignations in this industry if the hospitals are already overrun? Make it make sense. What's the next thing? Requires executive branch federal employees and federal contractors to be vaccinated. So even if you got a contract with the federal, if you have a federal contract, or if you have a contract with the government, you got to be vaccinated. Requires employers with 100 or more employees to give their workers paid time off to get vaccinated. You're going to pay me to go and get something that you think that is vital to my health? That sounds like coercion. We're going to pay you days off so you can go and get this vaccine. Quote, no one should lose their pay in order to get vaccinated or take a loved one to get vaccinated, Biden said. I'm going to leave that alone. Increased production of rapid at-home tests. Walmart, Amazon, and Kroger will begin selling the kits at cost. Now, I'm wondering if you get one of these home testing kits, will that be sufficient for you to administer to your employer? Because I just think, honestly, that there's too much of a too much of a temptation to send back tests that are negative. You know, people may be swapping their dogs and all of that stuff. You know, Me personally, I might be tempted to do something like that. But, I mean, I know my conscience, and I wouldn't, want to just manipulate and to willfully deceive someone by doing that just so I can keep my job. I know my conscience would eat at me, and the Holy Spirit would be on my back about that. So, but I can see where others who may not have that conviction would be swapping their dogs, right? Telling Spot to come here, and and swapping Spot every Friday and submitting it back to wherever, and getting these negative tests so they can continue to keep their job. So I don't know how that's going to work. Distributes 300 million rapid tests to community health centers, food banks, and schools. Allows small businesses to borrow up to $2 million if COVID-19 impacts their sales. What? Okay, so now that I don't understand. You're going to allow small businesses to borrow up to $2 million if COVID-19 impacts their sales? I don't get that. I don't get that. Because, I mean, anyone can just say my business was impacted by COVID-19. That is what happened last year in 2020. Where they had those PPP loans and all of that stuff. I mean, there was a lot of fraud going on with that. Increases the speed of distribution of monoclonal antibody treatments to hospitals. Quote, please do the right thing, Biden said. Quote, but just don't take it from me. Listen to the voices of unvaccinated Americans who are lying in hospital beds, taking their final breaths, saying, if only I had gotten vaccinated. If only. Let's be honest. How many of you are actually going to listen to a guy like Joe Biden? Right? I don't even think people who actually voted for Joe Biden will listen to Joe Biden. And it's like he's trying to guilt trip people who are, quote, laying in hospital beds, unvaccinated, saying that if they only would have got the vaccine. Well, numbers, and you guys can do your studies on this, but there have been numbers where people have said, and I'm just repeating what I've heard. I'm just repeating some of the reports that I've seen. I'm not trying to sway anyone one way or another, but some of the reports that I've seen, people have, I think like in Jerusalem or in Israel, there have been more people sick in a hospital with the vax than those who did not have the vax. I don't know how true it is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not in that field. I can only tell you what I've heard and some of the reports that I've read and some of the articles that I've read. Just going to leave you with that information. But yes, this hits home for a lot of us as Christians because we're going to have to be making decisions, especially us as Christian men. We're called to take care of our families and to disciple and to make sure how that our households are in order. And we can't do that without working. We got to have jobs. We got to take care of our families. And I think that this is going to change the way that we do things. Now, we are hopeful that this doesn't go through, that the courts shut this down. But then there's also appeals. Now, we may rejoice if the courts decide that, hey, we're going to reject that. We're not going to allow this to go through. But there's always amendments. And they may say, yeah, we're going to throw all of this in there. And we know that a lot of this stuff is not going to pass. But when they kick it back out to us, we'll scratch out a couple of things. And then we'll push it back through. And then those things that may seem extreme, they'll scratch that out, but then there's going to be other little things, other little loopholes in there, other little hidden things that still may affect you as well. That may still lead you to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And, you know, I'm one of those people, and this is one of the things that I critique myself on a lot, is that could this be a distraction from something else? I mean, I've seen it happen so many times where you'll see something that'll like take the headlines and it'll just be sweeping across all the headlines. And then you'll go and read an article like 3-4 days later and you'll say, wait, hold on. This happened 3-4 days ago while I was reading this article about this vaccine, and I totally missed this about this big thing, this thing that's way bigger than this. I've missed that because of what has been propagated in the media, and everybody just hopped on that story. I don't know. I do not know. But yeah, I kind of alluded to this in my live stream, and you guys, if you guys are not catching my live streams, you're kind of missing out on it because we're having some pretty good discussions in there. That's when I can kind of roll my sleeves back and really kind of get into some really deep discussions. So, you know, if you guys, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, hit that notifications bell. Or if you are subscribed to the channel, hit that notifications bell. But obviously, subscribe if you're not. And you guys can check those live streams out. But anyway, I was talking about this last night because a lot of people are talking about the mark of the beast. And then there was a lady in Australia. She mentioned about the New World Order. She is like the like their top health aide or top health person. She's like the Dr. Fauci of Australia, right? And she's basically just like, in this New World Order, we need to figure out what contact tracing is going to be looking like. And I mean, she just said it boldly. They're not even hiding it anymore. I mean, she just threw out that term New World Order. I mean, like it was nothing. And we know that is a trigger and buzzword for a lot of us. That makes our antennas stick straight up. But yeah, hopefully, probably by this time later today. Well, actually, I'll probably say later today or probably by this time tomorrow, I should have some clips of that. I think I'm going to clip that from my live stream and put that as a separate clip. So, you guys can see exactly what that conversation was about, and you can see what my take was about this whole people labeling this the mark of the beast and all of this stuff. So hopefully you guys can watch that. But yeah, that's basically it for this article, guys. And as always, man, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like, is this something that we shouldn't be worried about? Do you think that people should be going out here and getting the vaccine? Like, this is something that we as Christians, we need to do because we are going to be saving lives. And if we're so adamant about saving lives, we're so adamant about making sure that we're keeping everyone safe, this should be something that we should highly consider and we shouldn't have anything to worry about. Or do you happen to believe that, yeah, we shouldn't be worried about these things because we serve a sovereign God, but at the same time, he's also called us to be wise. And this thing could affect the way that our households are currently ran. But all we can do is pray, hope for the best, and most of pray that the Lord gives us wisdom in times like these. So we can be able to make the right decisions. So anyway, no matter what you guys think, let me know in the comment section below. And as always, like this video, rate it, share it, subscribe. You guys have a blessed day and you enjoy your morning.